Dun, 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 dun. It's chaos out there, Mr. Odell. Need to ease your nerves there?
Go. What?
Need to ease your nerves there with a little beer?
I like to live in this. This is when there's blood in the streets. That's when it gets me going.
Yeah. There's a lot of blood in the streets everywhere. So I'm sure you freaks know there's been a lot of chaos in the Bitcoin markets over the last 7 days. We're going to talk about all of it. We didn't really have an in-depth list this week because we figured there's a lot to talk about in regards to the blow-ups of Celcius, Three Arrows Capital, and all that were exposed to those two particularly, which seems to be more. There's rumors of BlockFi being exposed. There was another lender that, or another similar service, I forget, Flip something, never even heard of, that announced that they're
like Flybox or some shit.
Yeah, something that begins with FL.
There's so much shit out there that people were in that I just didn't even know existed.
Yeah,
a lot of people were not humble, Marty.
No, we tried to warn them. I mean, your tweet that's been getting reposted from last year of the meme of the guy going into the box, the trap, 6% yields on Bitcoin. 6% interest.
And then there was if you look in the comments of that post from a year ago, there's like all these cocky new coiners that are like telling me that custodial risk is no big deal. Hate to see it, but sometimes you have to touch the stove.
Yeah. All right.
Learn.
We're going to dive into all of it. Let's just jump into Clark's dashboard right now. Update you guys on the stats. The price of Bitcoin currently as it stands is 20,950 cuck bucks. One cuck buck is going to get you 4,773 sats. Current market cap is hovering around 400 billion, just under it at 399.5 billion. We are at block height 741,070. There is a difficult to read target coming in 818 blocks. I've been tracking this pretty tightly this week to see if miners are shutting off. As of right now, it's going to be a relatively flat upward adjustment of 0.3%, but that was like 1.8 upward percent adjustment like just a day ago. So I wouldn't be surprised if that turns into a negative adjustment, a downward adjustment. It's estimated to be on June 22nd as of right now, which would be next Wednesday. Somebody calling me. Is that me? Yeah, it's me.
Marty, put it on Do Not Disturb when we fucking rip.
It's signal. It's a signal message.
Do Not Disturb still stops that.
We are looking at 9,136 transactions in Clark's mempool. The last block was mined 14 minutes ago. Samurai, Whirlpool, where we at? Unspent capacity is at 4,644.28 Bitcoin. Way down on the unspent value, as you may imagine, due to the price falling considerably.
We're all poor now.
Yeah, there's a lot happening. I forgot we recorded on Saturday, so this has happened within
Did
5
you see the tweet
days.
I put out of like of that woman who's like dancing on TikTok when
yes,
she's like
all the corners.
It's like my Twitter feed right now, and everyone was like, "You fucking pussy! Like we hodl till we die!" Like blah. I was like, "Who the fuck do you think I am?" Like, let's have a little bit of fun on Bitcoin Twitter today.
It has been a lot of fun. I've been having a lot of fun.
Salt was high. Salt was very fucking high. And then this BlockFi tweet, I was like, consider taking your Bitcoin off of custodial exchanges until the panic settles. And then there's a bunch of Bitcoiners in my comments like, and then keep it off forever. Like never use, not your keys, not your coins. It's like, yeah, I'm aware, but you got to be, accommodating to the people that are using these products in the first place. Like I don't think a lot of freaks were using them. I think most of our audience, most of the people that we interact with on a daily basis, hold their own keys at the very least. I'd like to think a lot of them use their own node as well.
Yeah. I mean, let's jump into it. So what happened? If you're out there, you're listening.
Yeah, Jebby's in the comments. He was one of the guys who hit me with that.
If you're new to Rabbit Hole Recap, you're new to this podcast, you're tuning in, you're like, all right, I want to figure out what the hell is going on in the world of quote unquote crypto. Why has the price of Bitcoin fallen? What has it been? Let's pull up Bitbo so I can see The last 7 days, the price has fallen 30.62%.
Yeah, I gave a wedding gift this weekend, the past weekend, and it's already down fucking 40% or 35%.
Yeah, 30% as of 7 days ago. Price is up today, 1.4%. But what happened? So Celcius, which is a service that
No one should use.
no one should use, we got ahead of this when Terra blew up.
Been talking about this for fucking years, but yeah, we called it out by name.
Yeah, we finally called it out by name when that happened. But so essentially, Celcius is one of those service providers where they'll take your Bitcoin and they'll give you yield on that Bitcoin. So if you want to, Bitcoin obviously isn't a productive asset if you just hold it. So their whole value prop is like, hey, give us your Bitcoin. We're gonna then go lend it out and to others and get an interest rate on that, and then give you some of those sats that we get on that interest rate. They weren't only doing that; they were wrapping Bitcoin on other blockchains and putting it into these DeFi protocols, hoping that they would be able to get yield there as well. They also had a mining operation that was providing revenues that I think that they were contributing some of those
pretty
revenues.
big mining op too.
Yeah, and so I guess maybe the Terra Luna blow up was the first domino to lead to this cascade, but obviously we've seen a lot of people have to, in the wake of the Terra Luna blow up, have to liquidate a lot of their crypto to cover margin, and that seems to have incited a contagion event that has taken down Celcius. They had a lot of capital locked up in these DeFi protocols and these mining operations and these Bitcoin lending schemes that they were doing on the back end, and they're essentially insolvent. They were driving, it looks like throughout the week they were attempting to drive down their margin price by just doubling and tripling down.
This shit has such poor privacy that everyone knows their liquidation level. So they had to, and this just goes once again, the importance of financial privacy. Their liquidation level was public.
Yeah.
So they had to drive that down underneath 20K. I mean, to just sum up what Marty just said is Celcius and a bunch of other companies and a bunch of different institutions, including BlockFi, Three Arrows Capital, a lot of fucking people that should have known better were playing with really risky shitcoin shit that was very illiquid, and when things turned on them, it turned really hard and really fast. And they were also holding Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is actually liquid and easy to sell, so it was the first thing that was fucking sold by most of these guys to try and cover their positions. And then of course this is also in the greater macro backdrop of just markets in general just shitting the bed.
Yeah. And so that's the question. Like, Terra Luna definitely contributed to it, but I do think the larger looming macro backdrop is contributing to this as well, because especially these DeFi protocols and these exotic blockchain schemes that have been popping up over the last few years, they're what many would consider far out on the yield curve, like high risk investments. And when shit hits the fan, you need to de-risk. What you're going to do is you're going to liquidate those high risk investments far out on the yield curve, and I imagine that has contributed a lot of pressure to this as well, obviously.
But a lot of it they can't liquidate. That's the issue, right? Like they have all these fucking locked up illiquid shitcoins.
Yeah, like the Steth token, which is,
I mean, that's just straight up locked up. Some of it's actually locked up. Other is just so thinly traded, and it's traded between like the 6 different big players together. So there's no fucking depth. They can't actually sell it. Like it's essentially locked up.
Yeah. And so
and they were treating this not as high risk, right? They were like, oh, we're getting 20% fucking yield, and it's low to zero risk. And so they weren't even, there was no risk management. There was very minimal risk management. And then they were taking a massive cut, and then they were convincing retail like, oh, we'll give you 5% of it. And then they were taking the remainder 15%. It was extremely lucrative.
While it was lucrative, it's like the life of a turkey. It's the number of days and its happiness is going up and to the right until one day that liquidity drives up and everybody gets wrecked. And so a lot of people learned a hard lesson this week. I mean, Celcius blew up, and that leaked into 3 Arrows Capital, and so 3 Arrows Capital is headed by Suzu and Kyle Davies, who were high school classmates who started their fund. They've been considered in the space to be some of the biggest thought leaders and some of the best investors. And it seems that they have been extremely exposed to the point where the rumors are, I'm not sure if it's been 100% confirmed, but from what I'm hearing, it seems that they are insolvent, and that is 3 Arrows too. Is a lot of the focus early in the week was on Celcius because obviously they had massive exposure. But if you look into the numbers, it seems like 3 Arrows had significantly more exposure.
Well, they all have exposure to 3 Arrows. It's all fucking connected.
Yeah. So this is,
and like supposedly BlockFi. So like BlockFi and 3 Arrows are mostly rumors right now. Like Celcius has completely halted withdrawals, and we're hearing some troubling things about people having, delays when trying to withdraw from BlockFi. But I haven't heard of direct freezes. But like BlockFi was heavily working with 3 Arrows Capital. Like they always said, someone has to borrow the Bitcoin that they're supposedly getting yield off of, right? And 3 Arrows Capital was considered maybe a step above on the risk curve over something like, Luna or some bullshit DeFi yield, right? It was like, oh, these guys are established. They have strong backing. They know what they're doing. We can lend it out to them. Like, who knows? Maybe Gemini's exposed to them. A lot of people could be fucking exposed to them. And it's all connected together. And then you have this contagion element because they're all connected together. So ultimately, in general, in times of panic, it's always bad to trust a third party custodian, but in times of panic, it's even worse. This is when we see who's insolvent. Some of them might have been insolvent before this even fucking happened, and you're really just playing with fire if you're not holding custody. And I think the real thing that the next cookie to crumble that a lot of people aren't really paying attention to yet. So we have a lot of large leveraged miners that have big Bitcoin bags that they accumulated over the bull market. And a lot of people are focused on MicroStrategy, but those miners have way weaker hands, and they have, they're definitely in full panic mode. A lot of them are in full panic mode in their boardrooms right now.
yeah. I mean, I can just speak at Cathedra, AJ and Drew. I mean, this is all public information. They decided to move relatively early to de-risk and de-leverage their balance sheet, but it seems like they made that decision at a good time because, like you said, now everybody's going to be panicking. It's going to be much harder to restructure a lot of that debt and pay that down. And obviously, you're selling Bitcoin at a 30% discount to where it was only a couple weeks ago, only a week ago, and so that just compounds the problem. And going back to like the Celcius or BlockFi and other lenders who are still around and aren't completely insolvent yet, but this whole situation where you have Celcius fall and others who have Bitcoin on something like BlockFi or other providers are like, oh shit, I need to get it off. So that just exacerbates the problem as well. You have everybody, essentially, you have a run on these services happening right now, and that is going to make it much harder for them to remain solvent, I would imagine.
I mean, so like there's like all this positive spin that Celcius closed withdrawals so they can recoup their positions and cover themselves until the panic's over. I bet you those withdrawals never open again.
No, I mean,
sure it's never gonna fucking open again.
I mean, they went and hired like a bankruptcy restructuring law firm yesterday, so it seems like Celcius is going to turn into like a Mt. Gox like situation where you have years of accounting and claims that are made, and those Bitcoin, if they are still around, whatever Bitcoin are left, are going to be held up in bankruptcy restructuring claims for a number of years.
I mean, we talk about this during the bull market all the time, but people don't really take it to heart until the bear market is worth repeating when we hit these big down cycles. There's a lot of confirmation bias on Bitcoin Twitter and in the Bitcoin industry in general. This is always and will always be a survival game. This is a game of survival. Many will not make it. And the only ones you see that have been around for a while are the people that have successfully weathered these storms and have stayed humble enough to not get absolutely fucking crushed when the price comes down.
Yeah.
And I say that from a brand new studio that I hope that I don't get crushed by. As Bitcoin doubles.
Yeah, no, it's a game of survival. I mean, and this is really, I mean, I don't want to toot our own horns or toot your horn and blow too much smoke up your ass, Mr. Odell, but stay humble, stack sats is literally one of the most sage pieces of advice that can be given out in this world. Like,
This is why the humble part is important. Like during the bull market, everyone's like, "Oh, you don't have to."
oh no, did we lose Matt?
Part.
Oh, there we go. You came back. We just lost you for a second. During the bull market, everybody's like, "What?"
Everyone drops the stay humble part, and they're like, "It's unnecessary." If anything, it's more important because you can stack the sats, but you can't hold on to the sats if you don't stay humble.
Yeah, and this is why, and so hopefully this is a massive lesson. We'll see. I mean, these blowups have happened before. We learned with Mt. Gox, obviously. Not your keys, not your coins was the meme back then, and the people who were stuck on Mt. Gox didn't learn that or didn't take that lesson to heart, and they got burned. Now it's happening again with Celcius and other providers. Hopefully, this just increases the amount of individuals who are staying humble and stacking sats and taking control of their own Bitcoin. It's important to hold your own keys and to secure your own Bitcoin because you can't trust these third parties. Trusted third parties are security holes in your Bitcoin holdings. And I mean, you know, I know talking to the guys from Unchained this week, I mean, they have a lending product as well, but as an Unchained customer who has a loan out as well, I feel considerably safer with a model like theirs where you have a 2 or 3 multi-sig where you hold a key and you can be sure that you're not rehypothecating it. Not saying that anybody should go take these loans out, but if you're doing something like that, you want to make sure the provider, somebody like Unchained, disclaimer, or sponsor of a podcast, but like they have Hodl, another sponsor of the podcast, that you have these assurances that they're not taking undue risk with your collateral. Like if you need to engage in this, like make sure you're doing it with the provider who actually has some risk buffers in place in terms of assuring you that your coins are not going to be rehypothecated to be gambled with high risk, high yield shit products at the end of the day.
I'm going to go. Yeah, I mean, BlockFi and Celcius were literally rehypothecation as a service. The other one I'm a little bit concerned about is Lendon too. We haven't mentioned Lendon.
Why are you concerned about them? I honestly, not.
I mean, they were doing similar things like yield stuff. I don't know how connected they are. Anyone who was offering yield, Unchained wasn't offering yield, but anyone who's offering yield, I hate the word yield, by the way. You find an asset that's designed to pump forever, but you're looking for yield. Yield is a fiat thing. But anyway, I want to go back to the public miners because
keep losing Matt. Bitcoin Park skimping on the Wi-Fi, it seems. There, yeah, I can see him waving. It's not us, is it, Car?
No, we're directly connected.
Yeah. All right, you're back, Matt. Is your Ethernet connected?
nah, dude, this is day 6 of Bitcoin Park. I'm gonna switch to a mobile hotspot.
Okay.
But anyway, I was saying that MicroStrategy, made it so that it was obvious that in the public markets, in the stock market, it was.
All right, he's switching. What I think he's going to say is MicroStrategy. You do your Wi-Fi thing, and I'll ad lib here. MicroStrategy has made it a very popular thing in public markets to lever up. They do it by issuing notes, basically raising capital with the sole intent of buying Bitcoin with that capital, hoping that it will appreciate over time to a point where they'll be able to pay back the note holders with some interest. On top of that, Bitcoin miners do similar things by buying futures orders of miners, and then they can go to somebody like a NYDIG or a Galaxy, and they can use those ASICs as collateral to get even more money on top of that. which is a different form of levering up and making your operation more risky. Is that a good explanation of what you're trying to?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. But anyway, I feel like it's going to be very similar to 2017, after the 2017 crash with the ICOs that had really big bags of ETH. So that they're going to be a drag on the price for a little bit as they each individually panic dump
Yeah.
over the next couple of months. I'm about to switch Wi-Fi's now, so I'm going to lose you for a second.
Yeah. With the mining companies particularly. So like if I mentioned futures orders, so there's like the S19 XPs that are going to begin getting delivered later this summer. They were sold. I mean, those orders, those futures orders were engaged in the end of last year, beginning of this year, where Bitcoin was floating around all-time highs in the 40s, 50s, close to 60s, and the price per terahash was anywhere between like $85 to $90 a terahash. As the price of Bitcoin's fallen, obviously hash prices collapsed with it. It was around 10 cents earlier this week. Have not checked it today. I can check right now on Brains, but long story short, miners were paying again like $85 to $90 a terahash at the beginning of this year, end of last year, when those miners are actually getting delivered at the end of the summer. Their book value is like, I mean, right now, the latest mining prices I've seen within the last week. Last week it was around, like, before this crash, they were around like $45 to $50 a terahash. Some of the top of the line models. I wouldn't be surprised if we see somewhere between $15 and $20 a terahash when all's said and done, when these miners are forced to sell off their new ASICs just to have enough capital on the balance sheet to survive and not go bankrupt. So you're going to see a flood of ASICs on the market. And like I said, when we were reading Clark's dashboard, it looks like, I mean, S9s, if you're not running S9s under two with power that's less than 2 cents, they're unprofitable. So we'll see older gen machines turn off in mass, I would imagine, over the next few weeks. The daily profit for an S9 with an electricity price of 5 cents a kilowatt hour right now is negative 21 cents. So you're losing 21 cents per S9 per day. If your electricity cost is 5 cents, let's see what it is if it's 2 cents. If you have 2 cents power, you're making like 62 cents a day per ASIC. So if you don't have
there's going to be massive miner consolidation, basically.
Yeah.
The surviving miners are going to gobble up the ones who were not humble. And at the end of the day, Bitcoin will be fine, but a lot of miners will not be.
No.
And are you all ready for that nice death spiral FUD? I feel like we're on the verge of some juicy death spiral FUD.
Ari's already out here with Bitcoin 2.0 FUD. So
I didn't even know he still existed. I forgot.
I didn't either, dude.
For so long until you tweeted him out.
Well, I had him muted, and I forgot about him for a couple years, though. And then in some group chat, somebody posted that tweet. I was like, what the fuck is this dude saying?
Does he still run that fund? Block Tower?
I think it's still in his profile. I wonder if they've been exposed to this, but
I wonder if they got blown the fuck out.
I don't know. It's wild times out there, though. But I mean, you hate to see people lose their Bitcoin and lose money and lose the sats they've worked hard for and fall prey to the trusted third parties who sold them the world of 6% yield only to go bust. But I think
sometimes even less.
Yeah, I think it's a cleansing mechanism. You're seeing, what we're seeing right now is a massive deleveraging in the Bitcoin space that's being driven by these service providers, and it does hurt. Obviously, prices down 30%, could go lower if we have more blow ups. A lot of people talking like 15Ks in the cards, but
Do you think it's in the cards, Marty?
I wouldn't be surprised. If BlockFi goes down.
What percentage What percentage would you give it?
25%.
25% under 15.
Yeah. What
That's
about
a
you?
decent. Yeah, I was gonna say like 15,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised.
15. It goes under 15. Like in one a scam wick, you don't know how low, just to wipe out anyone who's left out of the liquidation point.
Yeah. Yeah. I could certainly see that happening. But again, it sucks right now, but all this deleveraging is good in the long run. Hopefully people learn the lesson of holding your own keys, and it leads to more Bitcoin being held in wallets controlled by individuals. And then on top of that, like, if you believe, so that's the other interesting thing with the macro backdrop happening as this is all going down. Maybe it's a factor. Who cares? Is if the world is going to shit in the traditional financial world, and it seems like it is. The Fed raised rates by 75 bips yesterday. It doesn't seem like that's going to help curb inflation at all due to the supply chain issues that exist in energy and food specifically. So that's going to prove to be wholly ineffective at curbing inflation, I would argue, and that'll become glaringly obvious throughout the summer. You have the Japanese yen blowing up right now. The Japanese government 10-year bond skyrocketed up 80% today. It was temporary. It wicked up there. It's not there anymore, but it's still considerably over the 25 BIP target that they have for that particular bond. So it seems like Japan may be going through a crisis right now. And I tweeted out earlier this week, if Japan and the yen go bust, that is going to create a contagion effect in the developed economies, because Japan, if you freaks are not aware, they're actually the first country to embark on a QE-like monetary policy. They started in the 90s. And like that, if Japan fails, they've been doing it for like 3 decades, that's going to lead people to begin questioning, oh, Japan sort of paved the way for these QE forever policies, and the rest of the world followed suit. If this is the end state of Japan's financial system with these policies, why is that not going to happen here? Is that likely to happen here? And I think a lot of people in the developed economies are going to come to the conclusion like, yes, these QE policies will eventually lead to this type of meltdown, at which point, like, what is safe? And even though Bitcoin has gone through this massive price decline over the last week and could continue to experience a price decline, at the end of the day, what's happening again is a deleveraging event where the relative risk of Bitcoin exposure is considerably lower than having exposure in traditional markets. And maybe that's when large institutional investors begin scooping up Bitcoin at very cheap prices with a long-term hodl strategy.
I mean, there's a couple of things to unpack here. First, when you see like these sovereign bonds, and like, I'm not a finance guy. I'm a humble sat stacker. But when you see these sovereign bonds, like when the rate goes up, it's basically signaling a loss of confidence, right? It's like, if I lend you money, you have to pay me a higher rate because I don't fucking trust you, right? So when we see these yields spike, it's loss of confidence in whatever government is offering the debt. In this case, Japan. The second thing is, and I've stipulated, I think we've both talked about this before. I did not. I was completely caught off guard on the double rate hike by the Fed. I did not think they had the balls to just crash everything. So it should be interesting if they do a third hike. They're not going to be able to curb inflation anyway. So now we're just going to have inflation and a depression at the same exact fucking time. So I was really surprised they did that, especially going into midterms. I know it's technically supposed to be separate, but it's not. Let's be honest. So I guess that's what they call stagflation, right? When we go into like a depression plus inflation.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is, we've also talked about this many times, is it really could, and I know this sounds like hopium, but we could all use a little bit of hopium. Everyone should laugh a little bit. There's an argument, so Bitcoin is the most free market we've ever seen to date. And as a result, there's no bailouts, there's no circuit breakers, there's no market freezes. It just fucking crashes, everyone learns their lesson, and the weak get pushed out, and the strong survive. That's how free markets tend to essentially regulate themselves. But as a result, what we saw in March 2020 was Bitcoin fell hard and fast first. The stock markets all hit their circuit breakers where they paused the stock market, and then Bitcoin rose quick and fast before everyone else because they were going slow and steady and then back up. But there was also a shit ton of printing there, right? So the question is, are central banks going to print? But regardless of that, I think there's an argument that Bitcoin falling hard and fast now, before we really see true chaos and loss of confidence in traditional markets, does set up some kind of momentum and narrative going into those, right? So if we hit hard fast now, which we've already kind of done, and we might do even harder, then as the rest of the markets continue to fall into chaos and loss of confidence, Bitcoin slow and steady goes up, then all of a sudden you have this escape valve narrative, you have this store of value narrative, you have this opt-out narrative. And humans are emotional, right? And when narratives start getting built, they're hard to take back down. So there's two arguments here. I mean, and I know it's not very helpful. This is either like the longest bear market we've ever seen in the history of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has only existed in basically a long macro bull trend, the longest macro bull trend we've ever seen in human history, and now we're entering a macro bear trend, and that could be fucking massive, and maybe Bitcoin stays below all-time highs for a long fucking time, or the exact opposite, where it's extremely short, painful, but ultimately we bounce back quicker and stronger than ever. What do you think, Marty? Do you agree that those are kind of, I feel like those are the two things rather than somewhere in the middle?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And that's what I was alluding to, like the deleveraging happening in Bitcoin right now. If we fully delever, all these services go bunk, we bottom out on price, the selling pressure subsides, and then you have traditional market. They're gonna tank. Like, inflation's not going away. The Fed raising, that's the other thing. The Fed raising rates it's inciting already a corporate. It's gonna fuck up corporate debt to the point. Like, that's the thing with the Fed funds rate. They've manipulated that rate and the monetary base to such a point that the system, the government, the federal government specifically, and public markets have accumulated so much debt that a manipulation of those rates upward has a ceiling. Like, at some point, the Fed funds rate, it's at 1%, a little bit above 1% now. Jeff Gundlach's out there calling for 3%. If it ever got there, he would automatically bankrupt a bunch of corporate bonds and a lot of the sovereign debt that exists out there. And so that it's already happening. Like, you look at mortgage rates. I believe I saw the latest mortgage rate, average 30-year mortgage is at 5.67% as of today. It was something like 2.5% at the beginning of the year. And what that does for individual payments is insane. It was at like $1,000 was your average mortgage payment at the beginning of the year.
You have a variable rate mortgage.
Yeah, which a lot of people do.
Because it's a cheaper baseline rate when you first signed up for your mortgage.
Yeah, and so like it was
scams everywhere.
So your monthly payment was $1,000 in January, and now midway through June, it's $1,800. Like that it's going to have a material effect on the balance sheet of individual Americans, which will bleed into other markets. And then on top of that, you have all the corporate debt that's out there. Those interest rates goes up. We're in a recession, I would argue. That's been like the weirdest thing of the last 2 weeks is so I turned on CNBC a few days this week just to see what
you fucking masochist.
I know, but it's interesting to see what all these talking heads are saying. You have talking head after talking head predicting a recession at the end of the year, 2023. Maybe we'll get a recession. But it's like, if you look at the numbers, we had a negative GDP print in Q1 of this year. It seems like we had retail sales numbers come in yesterday. They were negative. You had the Philly Fed, or I think it was like the Philadelphia Consumer Sentiment Index come out. It's at its lowest point since 2008. right as it was becoming obvious that we were in a recession then. And all these talking heads are going on CNBC and being like, oh, the labor market's so strong right now. Like there's so many open jobs that like there's no way we'd be going into a recession. And these idiots, they'll look at unemployment and open jobs, but they don't look at the participation rate, which is actually the denominator of the jobs market. And the participation rate currently is sitting at 1977 levels, like before women fully entered the workforce. So like the participation rate is at 50-year lows. That getting driven down that low is caused by the lockdown. So like everybody's like, we have a strong labor market. Like the labor market has not recovered by any means since the lockdown started in 2020. And so like this whole meme that a lot of these mainstream talking heads are going out with, like, we're not going to go into recession, the labor market's so strong, is just an abject lie, because they're just shoveling the participation rate under the rug, which is a very important metric for the vitality of the economy. Like the economy is not strong by any means right now, especially from a labor perspective. And so it's just very odd to see that all these talking heads are like, the labor market's strong, we're not going to have a recession. You have, again, negative GDP print in Q1. You have all these Michigan consumer sentiment at all-time lows. You have the Philly Fed business outlook. That's what the index was at 2008 levels. You have retail sales going negative. You have food prices hitting insane inflation rates. Like the average price for a gallon of gas in the United States is at all-time highs, above $5 now.
I'm like an amateur oil trader, so I keep my truck at full all the time now. So like if I go down a quarter, I just fill it back up to full. So I'm just constantly driving around with the full fucking tank, because I know prices are going to go up next week. Yeah,
and you have, on top of that, this is all being exacerbated by an administration that is completely either idiotic or trying to destroy the economy. You had Joe Biden come out yesterday,
probably idiotic,
and write a letter to all the oil and gas execs saying you need to like spin up refineries, and like it's your patriotic duty to begin producing more oil and gas. Like we need to reverse Putin's price hikes. And it's just completely like the woman, whatever her name is, Jen, the energy secretary. Let's listen. All right, so this is perfect. It's like a 30-second clip. Let's just listen to how these idiots think.
Well, before we start it, Marty, did you listen to the Macro Voices episode with David Rosenberg?
I have not.
Okay.
Do you recommend
One of the
it?
freaks thought you did. And I was going to ask you if you recommended it, but okay, we can hear this clip now.
Do you, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, are you telling me you want them drilling for more oil? You want the refineries putting out more gasoline in 5 or 10 years?
What we're saying is today we need that supply increased. Of course, in 5 or 10 years, actually in the immediate, we are also pressing on the accelerator, if you will, to move toward clean energy so that we don't have to be under the thumb of petro-dictators like Putin or at the whim of the volatility of fossil fuels. Ultimately, America will be most secure when we can rely upon our own clean domestic production of energy.
But that's
through
the problem
solar,
for these companies.
through wind,
these
through
companies are saying, you know, you're asking me to do more now, invest more now, when in fact 5 or 10 years from now, we don't think that demand will be there, and the administration doesn't even necessarily want it to be there. Just one last question on Saudi Arabia. The president is going to Saudi Arabia, where we understand he will be meeting with the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Is there any kind of promise beforehand that the Saudis will increase production?
No, there's no promise beforehand. No, there's not. And let me just say, John, we really want to see us move to clean energy, but we also need to see this increase right now. And we are asking the oil and gas companies as well to diversify and make sure that that they become diversified energy companies to be able to produce other means of clean energy, because they have huge, deep pockets. They have a big ability to invest in the future as well as investing right now, so that we don't see oil and gas causing the inflation numbers and people being hurt every day.
This woman's a straight up idiot. Like the fact that she is the energy secretary of the United States is baffling. This woman should be nowhere near energy policy. So like, listen to what she just said. Like, we need oil and gas companies to invest in these refineries. These refineries cost billions of dollars to make, and they have 30-year payoffs. Like, you cannot just outlay tens of billions of dollars of capital and with the knowledge that you're never going to get a payback on it because the government's actively working against you to ever get a payback on that. Like,
What's her name?
It's Jen Strom or something like that. Let me find it. What's her name?
I'm pretty proud of myself that I didn't even know she existed until just now.
Dude, she's terrible. She's like, but this is the state.
Freaks. Yeah, go on.
This is the state. What is her name? It is.
We fucking talk about all this shit because it's interesting.
Jennifer
But,
Granholm.
You can just safely ignore all this and just stay humble and stack sats, just for the record.
You can. But no, this is a big problem. Like, you have the administration of this country saying, "Oh, we need to fix this problem," going to the oil execs, writing scathing letters, calling them greedy profiteers. We're going to tax your profits. So, like, they're just disincentivizing any investment in multiple ways with the windfall profit tax that they want to put on these people, and the claim that, like, hey, we need more oil now, but in 5 to 10 years, there's not going to be any. So you need to invest tens of billions of dollars in these refineries so that we can get more supply to market in the short term. But in 5 to 10 years, we're not going to let you use them. Like, it doesn't make any economic sense. These people are economically illiterate. Like, this woman doesn't understand the first thing of capital allocation, return on investment, supply and demand. And so, like, this problem with
She's
this
the energy secretary and she owns no Bitcoin. That tells you all you need to know.
No, but apparently she owns a stake in an electric vehicle charging company that she profits from. So
there you go.
Like, she has an equity stake in it. So yeah, this is the situation. It's fucked beyond belief. The energy is not going to get better. I mean, Carr, you had the video of that trucker. He sounds like he's from Delco. He's got a Delco accent. Yeah, I think he reigns from where I'm from. But like, there's already diesel shortages happening on the East Coast.
What does Delco stand for?
Delaware County.
Delaware County, Jersey.
Pennsylvania.
So
let's play this.
Fuel. Pilot over here out of fuel. All these fucking trucks here waiting. Nobody can get fuel. This guy's out of fuel. These guys are lucky. They got some fuel. Luckily, I got a hold of a fucking farm hand out here that's gonna sell me 50 gallons of fucking red just so I can get the truck back and park the motherfucker. Everywhere I went, these two fucking major truck stops, there's fucking mom and pops down there. Everywhere you call, slap empty. So I'm lucky. I don't run DEF, but they don't have any fucking diesel exhaust fluid. They don't even have fucking engine oil in here. It's gonna get a lot worse. Y'all better be prepared. Fuck you, man.
So this is
Marty, is that your most recent TikTok video?
No.
I see you put the accent on just for TikTok.
TikTok hasn't started yet. It will start eventually in the next few weeks. But yeah, I mean, it's boots on the ground. So like he mentioned DEF, diesel exhaust fluid. So again, terrible energy policy leading to negative externalities down the line. These particular engines that they demanded have this DEF mechanism, combustion mechanism in it, which makes you add another fuel to your engine on top of your diesel to synthesize it so that it's better for the environment. They're running out of that. And
Stoney was talking about this.
Yeah. And so
a couple months ago, he said he ripped it out of all of his vehicles.
Yeah. And so you have this terrible policy that was thrust on the trucking industry. Now they're running out of that fuel, so they can't even run their trucks. They're running out of diesel, right? Just plain diesel on top of that. And so the Biden administration writing the scathing letter to the oil and gas executives and begging them to invest in this refinery infrastructure and pipeline infrastructure is just completely asinine. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, this problem under this current administration is not going to be fixed, and
it always comes down to the fucking incentives.
How would you describe the incentives here?
The incentives are not there, right? These people do not understand what it means to have proper incentives. Yeah. There's if anything, the one incentive in their favor is that energy prices have skyrocketed. which is an extremely strong incentive to increase production.
Well,
But
here's
anything, they think that's a problem that needs to be solved, even though that's the main incentive that will actually bring more energy online.
Well, here's how extremely, and this is why yesterday's decision, many people are like, oh, finally Powell's taking initiative, raising rates, trying to curb inflation. But it could be, it could wind up, we'll look back in retrospect like a year from now, and it was actually the complete wrong move to make, because by raising interest rate, you raise the cost of capital to go out and actually finance these projects to build this infrastructure. And so that disincentivizes these producers to do that even more, like with the Fed funds rate increasing by the largest amount since the mid 90s. Like the cost of capital to go finance these infrastructure projects just went up significantly, which disincentivizes these companies from doing it even more. And so like his move to curb inflation with this rate could prove to actually exacerbate the problem, because the infrastructure is not going to get built out because it's too
100%.
expensive from a raw materials point and a cost of capital point. Like the steel needed to drill wells, the price of steel's gone up considerably too. So like a lot of people will be like, oh, oil's trading at $120, $115, $120 a barrel right now, or wherever it's at, over $100. Like these guys are making a lot more profit. It's considerably more expensive to get this oil out of the ground to market because of the raw materials cost and now the cost of capital increasing significantly.
Shout out to my dad, OG Exxon bull, Exxon over 100. Look, they had over the last 2 decades, they got them stuck between a rock and a hard place. There was no good decision, but it does seem like they picked the worst decision here.
Yeah.
Like everyone's just getting fucked already, and then it's just like, okay, well, let's just fuck over the rich people as well, and anyone trying to borrow money, and just crash all fucking assets and destroy the lending market at the same time while we have inflation. Let's do all the above, and that's kind of where we're at right now. So
Yeah.
we can all let's just all have fun staying poor and continue forward.
Yeah. I bought some bullets this morning.
Oh, I mean, my ammo is like the single best investment I've ever made. Second to Bitcoin, but for now, it's up 30% in Bitcoin terms over the last 3 days.
God, this is a very dire situation. I mean, this is the product of a society that has gotten extremely complacent, that lives on fairy tales and pipe dreams. Like this whole, again, I've been beating this drum for months now. This whole energy transition is really destroying the American economy. Again, the fact that the Biden administration seems to be doubling and tripling down on it, particularly right now, is like, it's stunning, honestly, to sit here on the sidelines and watch it. I'm not even on the sidelines, I'm being directly affected by it, but it's just baffling how incompetent these people are and how illiterate they are when it comes to economics. And hopefully it gets, I mean, I'm not saying I want this to happen, but maybe what needs to happen is has to hit the fan to such an extent that things get so borked, that people get so desperate that people finally wake up and say, hey, this isn't working anymore. This is essentially what's happening right now is this is a communist system. Like the dictation of energy policy specifically, like, hey, like we're gonna create capital out of thin air and only invest it in these things. We're gonna control, like, centrally plan the energy markets, and then on top of that, we're gonna try to force the oil and gas industry to do things in the short term that are objectively not going to provide a return on capital, because we're going to keep going down the path of our energy transition. Like that, they're trying to centrally plan energy markets, and it's leading.
This was always the optimistic take, Marty, right? The optimistic take was always that everyone was going to get burned to the point that we improve. And I mean, you can go with energy policy on that. You can go with monetary policy on that. You can go with financial privacy, digital privacy. You can go with sovereignty. All of these things have been trending in the absolute wrong direction for a long fucking time. And the optimistic take was that we would hit a blow off top on them, and people would touch the stove and get fucking burnt, and then we would start from a fresh slate. And actually, in a lot of ways, it would be worse probably if we just got kneecapped and we didn't get full, double tapped and taken down. And you just get kneecapped and then you just continue it on for another 30 years or something like that. Like, it's almost better to just rip the fucking Band-Aid off.
I agree.
A lot of people will drown. It's going to be a fucking mess. I do not hope for that, but if you like look through all the different timelines, it's like, where else can you go at this point?
Yeah, we have to go through this pain. It sucks.
I think the cleanest for Bitcoiners would have been if we just leaned into inflation and then we all opted out with Bitcoin. We just had like a gradual transition into Bitcoin, but it looks like that's kind of out of the picture now. So,
well,
we're going to go with the pain approach.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on Saturday, but if we didn't, again, I'm becoming more confident in a call for hyperinflation starting this fall, because again, you have the mechanics of it. Even though the Fed's tightening, the monetary base is still massive here in the United States and globally. So there's been a shit ton of money printing for the last decade and a half, since 2008. Those pressures are beginning to leak into the world as supply chains get borked. So you're going to have a massive confluence of events come this fall. And we haven't talked about it on the show in a while, but I'm going to bring it up now because I think it will contribute to the Band-Aid being completely ripped off, people losing complete confidence in our institutions, and in that inciting hyperinflation. So we have supply chains are fucked, mainly because of energy policy and central planning via lockdowns. Via lockdowns. You have all this money printing going on. And then, I mean, it's becoming glaringly obvious that the vaccine rollout is having extremely adverse effects on many individuals across the world. And I think it's at some point this fall, it's going to become undeniable that particular move of mass vaccinating the whole planet was just a terrible decision that is leading to a considerable amount of deaths and adverse reactions. So you're going to have inflation, energy shortages, food shortages, and the world coming to grips with the fact that billions of people were forced to be poisoned. And at that point, people are going to have to come to grips with, holy shit, the people that we're looking to make massive decisions for our lives have no idea what they're doing. In fact, they're actively harming us. And at that point, going back to what we were talking about earlier, the two paths forward for Bitcoin, I think it's going to be, I think we could see a slingshot in price later this year, as we have the collapse in confidence in the
opium right into the veins. I'm down.
Yeah, the traditional financial system. And
you missed the fifth one, right? The fifth one is everyone's savings getting absolutely wiped out. Like anyone who tried to navigate that and hold assets and hold real estate, and I'm not even talking about Bitcoiners, hold real estate, hold stock, hold Bitcoin, like everything just got fucking hit hard, right? Yeah. That was like the last saving grace for a good portion of Americans. And it wasn't just rich people. A lot of my peers in college were like, they thought they were great day traders. They had all this fucking shit on Robinhood, and now it's all down 70%, 80%. Bam, like that. You just knocked out the last thing they had.
Yeah. And so I think a mass collapse in confidence in our institutions, whether it be financial, medical, government, is well underway. And I think it will come to a tipping point this fall as the energy, food, money, savings, medical shit show just all fucking combines together at the same time, where people are forced to wake up and say, holy shit, these people are destroying economies, health, and the quality of life on this planet. It sucks that it had to happen, but like we said, you got to rip the Band-Aid off at some time. And that's particularly in the context of monetary policy, that's what people have been saying since 2008. Like, you're just injecting heroin into the system, and as soon as that's taken away, like it's gonna force markets to seize up. Like you just need to take the heroin away and rip the Band-Aid off, and we're gonna have to do that across many sectors of our life. And again, I think it'll become glaringly obvious as we head into the fall here. Whew.
Stay humble, stack sets.
Great time to stack sats too. I mean, did you think we'd ever see 20K again?
Dude, I gave on a positive note, I gave a workshop to Tennessee Titans players this week.
Fuck yeah. How'd that go? Tell us about that.
I was like, it might not look like it, but we expect Bitcoin to be a good store of value. It was like down 30% over like 3 days, and I went in. But you know, gotta keep trucking on. It was good. Athletes are my favorite rich people. 'Cause they're just real people, you know. It's just like they're young kids and they're very passionate about what they do.
Well, so, come on, give us more context. How did this get set up? What was the workshop?
It got set up through Bitcoin Magazine. It was just me and Tennessee Titans players.
Did you go into their offices? Did they come to Bitcoin Park?
I was at their practice facility. They were very welcoming.
Did you? Was Derrick Henry there?
No.
Damn.
He didn't show up. They dick teased me a little bit on Derrick Henry, but he didn't show up. But the guys who did were great. I'm not going to dox them, but I'm bullish on the Titans this year.
Did you just give the case for Bitcoin as a monetary asset? Did you teach them how to use wallets? What did you do?
Well, you know, I'm a freedom money guy, right? So it's like not really necessarily my audience because I don't really think Tennessee Titans players are really looking for like a censorship-resistant asset, censorship-resistant global money. But I gave them that. They're busy people, so it's like I individually. It was small groups, and it was like 10 minutes at a time while they were in between practice.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I gave them my strong 10-minute chill at the. You know, it was literally. So what was it? It was Tuesday, so it was the day we hit 20K. When we like the Bitcoin markets were fucking collapsing. Like one guy was like, "Oh yeah, like I think I put like 15K into it in the fall." I was like, "Oh, so like you have like a humble like 6K now." But it was fun, and look, I mean, we're not going to stop, right? I'm not stopping anytime soon.
No, this is our only hope.
It makes me double down. So yeah, exactly. So I had honest conversations with them, and I answered their questions, and I tried to get some fantasy football advice, but they wouldn't give me any.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin, even though the price is down, it is our only hope, freaks. Like we need to separate money and state. We need to take the money printer out of the hands of these incompetent despots who are actively destroying the global economy. Despite the fact that Bitcoin has fallen by 30% in the last 5 days, the peer-to-peer distributed network goes on. Blocks are still being produced. People are still attaching transactions to fees to their transactions as they're being mined. Miners aren't making as much money as they were last week, but they're still making money. They're still gathering transactions and adding them to the ledger. Like Bitcoin in the network, again, it is completely clueless to the dollar amount that humans have decided to attach to it. It just knows, hey, if you're following these rules, if your transaction is valid, and you're a miner that finds a hash below the difficulty target, you can transact and add blocks to this network. So Bitcoin is unaffected at the network level. It's working as advertised, and it is the only way we're going to get away from the terrible situation that we find ourselves in the long run. Like the situation we're in is being driven by massive misallocation of capital and pricing signal manipulation via money printing and interest rate targeting that allows things that would otherwise not get financed to get financed because you're just printing money out of thin air and throwing it at it, and you're allowed to lie to yourself and tell yourself that a green energy transition makes sense and is going to put us in a better place. Under a Bitcoin standard, when push comes to shove, you don't have the luxury to misallocate capital at the scale that it's currently being misallocated at. It just won't compute because you will lose money. And in a world in which there are only 21 million Bitcoin, losing massive amounts of it is just going to be untenable.
I think, I mean, very well said. I mean, I think if I go back in my head to my time with the players, the main thing I tried to drill into them. By the way, it's fucking hilarious when you're just like, do you know what money is? And you just like go into the money, like what is money? But anyway, the biggest thing, and I think it's very relevant to the freaks, particularly in today's episode, considering all the different things we've covered so far, is to me one of the main value props of Bitcoin as a global money that is independent of corporations and governments is that you're able to minimize distractions, right? So we've been sold this idea in the fiat world we live in that you work hard every day, but when it comes time to save wealth for your family and your grandkids, you have to like have a diversified portfolio and be a financial professional or pay someone to fucking do it for you, which is insane. It's absolutely insane. But ultimately, in a sound money standard, in a Bitcoin world, you're able to work, you're able to do what you love, you're able to be passionate and focused on whatever you do on a day-to-day basis. But at the end of the day, when it comes time to save your work, when it comes time to save your money, save your wealth, there should be no distractions there. Like you should be able to just stay humble, stack sats, and over time, the purchasing power of that stored energy, that stored wealth should go up over time. And I think that resonated with them. I think it resonates with most common people because people don't want to be financial professionals. People don't want to manage a diversified portfolio of different assets. They just want to focus on what they do on a day-to-day basis and enjoy their life and store that energy easily.
Yeah. Keep it like you should be. It's so crazy that we've gotten so convoluted in our modern day society that the whole concept of just being able to work and save money without that money being debased is so foreign to so many people. Like this is the way the world should work. This is the way money should work. This is the way human dignity should work. Like this is like Bitcoin brings back human dignity to the world. Right now, we live in a world filled with debt slaves that are forced onto the hamster wheel to keep chugging and chugging just to stay afloat, not even to get ahead. And we're seeing the products of that system hit ahead here in the summer as we head into summer 2022. It's all shit is hitting the fan again. I don't want to. You never want to be the one who like calls hyperinflation or calls the end of the system, but like looking at the options that the Fed has, looking at the options that the federal government has, I think they're out, dude. I think this is the death throw. Well, the summer of 2022 will be looked back in history, written about in history books as the death throw of the global fiat monetary system regime.
The important thing to remember is that none of this would have happened if Dorsey didn't have his hyperinflation tweet. That is what caused all of this.
Self-actualization.
And now Marty's just piling on top. It's just Marty and Dorsey have just caused all of these issues for all of you people. So when chaos actually hits, just remember those are the doors you need to knock on.
Yes. Matt, we have a breaking thread that was released as we were recording.
Breaking. Does it say breaking on the top?
No.
Okay, because then we're not going to talk about it. Continue.
It's pull it up. It's Zach Prince, CEO, founder of BlockFi, getting out in front of the speculation.
I'm just going to go ahead and say I don't believe him. What is the thread about?
It's a long one. I've been seeing a lot of speculation about BlockFi's risk management practices that I want to address. While our policy is to not comment on specific counterparties, we are committed to providing as much transparency as possible, and it's important to know the following. BlockFi's risk management policies and practices and systems allow us to act decisively to mitigate risk in accordance with our contracts. These actions may include margin calls and asset liquidation when appropriate. BlockFi can confirm that we exercised our best business judgment recently with a large client that failed to meet its obligations on an over-collateralized margin loan. We fully accelerated the loan and fully liquidated or hedged all the associated collateral. No client funds are impacted. We believe we were one of the first to take action with this counterparty. BlockFi's prudent and proactive risk management is for the benefit of our broader client base and allows us to remain open for business during times of market stress. We continue to actively lend and operate normally across our global suite of products and services. In fact, we are fulfilling increased demand from institutional borrowers at higher interest rates, similar to rate moves in traditional markets such as the U.S. Treasury yields. As we always have, BlockFi will pass on as much yield from our lending activities to our retail clients as possible. We will share new rates in the coming weeks, which will go into effect on July 1st. Over the past 5 years, BlockFi has been battle-tested through all types of market conditions. Throughout this current period of market volatility, BlockFi continues to fulfill all withdrawal requests pursuant to our terms of service. I couldn't be more proud of how our people, processes, and systems have performed through the period of market volatility. BlockFi is here for our clients, and we're here for the long haul. I would imagine you can't say it by name, but I would imagine he's alluding to Three Arrows Capital.
100%.
Yeah.
So he's like just bragging that they liquidated them first.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's always tough in these situations because that's exactly what you're supposed to say if your back's up against the wall, because you don't want panic, you don't want a bank run. And I'm like not trying to. I've been telling people, we've both been telling people not to use that product for years now. So I feel when people tell me that I'm, agitating a bank run, I'm just saying the same shit I've always said.
Is this your Dorsey hyperinflation tweet in word form here?
Yeah, I caused it. No, I mean, I don't, they just, they raised at a down round of 1/3 of their current valuation. I don't even know if they successfully raised at that. Obviously they're desperate. They had some layoffs too, right? Did they announce layoffs?
Yeah, they cut 20% of their workforce.
Cut 20. Yeah, he's proud of his people, the 80% that remain. It's a dangerous time to be in any custodian, but especially one that plays games. And after you withdraw, if you do use CoinJoin, they will lock and close your account. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. No, again, I can't in good conscience recommend that anybody keep their Bitcoin on these services.
You see Zorn 101 in the comments? He thinks they liquidated Dan Held first. That was
No, I believe Dan came out and said he moved all of his coins off BlockFi because the yield wasn't large enough, wasn't worth the risk. Yeah, like you said, Matt, we have a perfectly scarce asset that's designed to pump forever, going out and risking your ability to...
Greed is a killer, man. Greed is a fucking killer, Marty.
I know. So okay, stay humble, freaks. Stay humble. I'm sure many of you who are here and have been here for many years are staying humble and stacking sats. But if you're new and you're here because you want to learn why this chaos is ensuing right now, this is why people didn't stay humble. They got a bit greedy, wanted that 6% yield on their asset that's designed to pump forever. And a lot of individuals are finding that instead of that 6%, they're getting nothing. So not only nothing, they're losing everything. It's sad.
Brutal.
Now, I think back to Bitcoin 2022 this year. Like, I was on the flight from Austin with Tyler Campbell here. And he works at Unchained Capital. We're actually going to have him on the show soon.
On Twitter.
Created the intro to this podcast, and we shared.
He's great. I love Tyler.
Yeah, we shared an Uber to our hotel from the airport, and some random conference goer hopped in with us, he was like, "Are you guys going to the Bitcoin
web conference that you guys hosted?"
No, we're talking about Bitcoin 2022. In Miami, so
consensus
at the Miami airport, he hopped in. This random gentleman hopped in the Uber with us to downtown, and obviously he was at the conference. We were talking about Bitcoin, and it was one of the individuals. I think this guy was a good dude. At least he seemed like it in the 30-minute cab ride that we had, and he was explaining how he lives his whole life on Bitcoin and leverages Celcius to get yield as an income to live his life. And so that's like one individual. And in the Uber, Tyler and I were both like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that, dude. Like they're extremely risky, and there's a good chance that your Bitcoin could evaporate one day. And I don't know if you heeded our advice or listened to it. You mentioned Nexo as well, but again, this was a Navy veteran, good dude.
Nexo's got to be fucked.
Yeah,
I just forget about all these companies. I just don't even really remember they exist.
yeah,
They're massively big. I mean, like what? Like Crypto.com must be in shit too, right?
I would imagine crypto. I mean, all these guys. Like,
I mean, look at Coinbase. Coinbase cut 18% of their employees.
They did, and like a lot of these, Crypto.com specifically has been lead lossing with insane marketing spends. Like they sponsor all of UFC. Obviously, they've had their Super Bowl commercial. They have their Matt Damon commercial.
What's the Matt Damon line that they call in South Park? Got to be brave.
Yeah.
What is it?
Fortune favors the brave.
Yeah, fortune favors the brave.
Yeah.
Oh, my family lost everything. Oh, but at least they were brave.
Yeah. And so like you have a company like Crypto.com that's been running a massive loss lead in their marketing campaign, which is in tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, just hoping that
Staples Center.
Yeah. Just hoping that individuals are going to keep putting collateral into their system so they could go play these risky games that Celcius and others were playing. Like I wouldn't be the least bit surprised that they're insolvent as well. And so, yeah, it's another one that has been talked a lot about. It's crazy how much money they're spending on marketing.
It's funny because like I hate Staples as a corporation, but I feel nostalgic for the Staples Center compared to the Crypto.com arena or whatever they're fucking calling it.
Right. Yeah. God. Like, so that was another thing. Speaking of Crypto.com, seems like they're running an app store scam too, or somebody. Did you see that? We got tagged in that thread.
What, they thought they downloaded Moon Wallet, but it was Crypto.com wallet?
Yeah.
That might have just been user error. I don't know if we can blame Crypto.com for that.
Okay. Yeah, somebody hopped in our Menchies this week. It was like, Moon Wallet's KYC.
But back
people.
to your Uber driver comment, there was a lot of comments like that in my post a year ago in all caps saying, with the rabbit trap, the 6% yield that when you go into these schemes, you'll never get your Bitcoin back out. There's a lot of people like, you privileged Bitcoiner, like you don't understand, like people rely on these yield payments for their daily lives and to feed their children. It's like that. I'm aware of that. That's why they're so fucking dangerous, because if you fucking lose them, if you lose everything that's backing them as well at the same time, you're fucked. You're absolutely fucked. They're malicious products.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
They're literally lobster traps, right? Like they put like a little bit of bait in the form of, oh, you just get this risk-free percentage increase. And then they sucker people in.
Well,
and they're not going they're not disappearing. Like next like they're going to be all over the place. It's such an easy grift.
Yeah.
People are greedy.
Yeah. And it's particularly evil because, again, it's like individuals that can't afford to get wiped out who are mostly using these services. Like people, I mean, I'm not trying to claim I'm like better educated, like who have a stronger sense and grasp on the risk involved with this stuff, stay away from it. And the ones who don't get into it. So you're literally attacking people who don't understand things and are going to be materially affected. Again, I've been thinking about that gentleman who hopped in our Uber. Again, Navy veteran, was about to retire and live off of his Celcius income. We told him, he was like, get out of there. But he's like, nah, it's not a problem. They'll be fine. And like they had the whole Mashinsky worship. It's just weird too. Like the yield gods aren't even like, I could look at that dude. I knew right away will call out people where they need to be called out. But Bitcoin 2019, like he was a fucking keynote
That was
speaker.
so bad at 2019.
Yeah, he was a keynote speaker, and I remember
showing his token up on fucking stage.
Yeah, I remember somebody like introduced me to him, like you should talk to this guy, and I remember within like 30 seconds, I was like, this guy's the biggest bullshit I've ever met in my fucking life. Like, but people fall for personalities. Don't trust anyone, freaks. Not even us. Trust
No
your
heroes.
trust
Slay
your-
your heroes.
trust your node and your private key security.
We're just fucking idiots. Don't blindly trust us. Do your own fucking thing. But take care of yourself. No one else will take care of you except yourself. Take
Yeah.
care of your friends and family. No one will take care of them except for you as well. That's the philosophy I like to live by.
Yeah. All right, let's lighten the mood with some shout outs. We've got a couple.
I hope we don't have any doomer shout outs. I hope they're more positive than us.
They're relatively positive. This is a good one. Really like to see this. Matt, Marty, thank you for everything. I've started a Bitcoin meetup in the UK in Leamington.
Fucking go.
In Leamington Spa. It's pronounced Leamington, but it's spelled Leamington. Leamington. A town in Warwickshire in the Midlands. The first meetup is on June 22nd at 1900. So 7 p.m. local time. In the Boiler Room Bar. Again, the meetup in Leamington Spa, a town in Warwickshire, in the Midlands. First meetup is June 22nd, so that's next Wednesday at 1900 hours in the Boiler Room Bar. Our Telegram channel is t.me/lembitcoin, LEAMBITCOIN. Pronounced.
Still Bitcoin party.
Okay, I get it's pronounced Lem, but it's spelled Leam. Leam. Spelled like Leam, pronounced like Lem. Would love for some freaks to
Shout out
join me.
you, freak.
Would
Thank
love
you
for
the
some.
support, and I'm glad you're.
I'm not done the
running
shout
it.
out yet.
Sorry.
Would love for some freaks to join me. The meetup is every fourth Wednesday. Hope to meet you both at Baltic Honey Badger. Live
Fuck
each
yeah.
day. Live each day at Orange Surf BTC.
Oh, it's Orange Surf? I
Yeah.
love that dude. Oh, shout out. Let's fucking go.
Let's
I
go.
hope to make your meetup one day, and I look forward to meeting you and Riga. And I apologize to Marty for cutting you off, and I apologize to you for cutting Marty off reading your words.
At Orange Surf BTC. Go check it out. He had some.
He's awesome.
He had some
Ride or die
shit.
freak right there.
He had some shout out corrections in my DMs. I just want to make sure I hit all of them. Yep, I hit all of them. Leamington. T.me/lem Bitcoin. LEAM Bitcoin. Next shout out. This freak, if you're out there, I may pull a technicality on you and just read it twice since you paid twice. So we keep all the sats, but feeling nice today. Shout outs are more expensive this week due to the price fall. So you paid for
Not
this shit.
necessarily. It depends when they sent it. They might have gotten a discount.
No, they sent it at noon today. And then at 12:30. So
All-time high sats shout out right there.
this freak paid one on-chain invoice and then one Lightning invoice. And here's the shout out. Say a pleb has 100,000 in cuck bucks to deploy and wants to protect his purchasing power over the next 10 years. Only two options are available. Do you buy U.S. treasuries or buy hosted miners with Compass Mining? Choose wisely.
No. Fuck you, freak.
Yeah.
Just buy Bitcoin, bro.
Yeah, just buy it.
Neither.
This
I'm
is
not answering that question.
This is terrible.
I would probably buy. I'd probably buy T-bills over hosted mining with Compass right now. If we want to talk about people that are over leveraged, that business is going to be in a world of pain right now. I mean, one of the things they had going for them was a lot of people didn't want to take refunds because the amount of sats they sent in was more than the US dollar refund they were going to get. But now the refund's actually worth more because it's denominated in US dollars. So they're going to get a bunch of refund calls.
Yeah. I would just
click
buy,
for Marty. Marty was like, "Oh shit, I didn't think about that aspect."
I would just buy Bitcoin if you have
But
100,000.
don't borrow money for Yeah, don't lend money to the U.S. government. You're gonna have fun staying poor. Just buy fucking Bitcoin. And thank you, Freak, for your support.
It's not done yet. Also, Marty, you should reach out to @metamic14 and discuss Geyser.fun. They are building a great crowdfunding tool using Lightning. More attention is needed on what they are building. Freak for life. Thank you, Freak. I'm not going to read it twice. If you want a refund on the second payment for this shout out.
Let's just put the second shout out. We'll just put it into T-bills.
Well, yeah, we'll put the $50 worth of sats into T-bills.
we can measure how that performance goes over time.
It's crazy how much. It's crazy. Like when you run a Bitcoin business, you get paid in Bitcoin. Seeing like $50 worth of sats this week is 234,238, whereas last week, let's pull a shout out from last week. It was only
that dollar's mighty volatile.
It was 169,798. So $50 worth of sats gets you almost 100,000 more sats this week. 80,000 more sats, which is crazy.
That's the crazy thing, right? It's like everyone's lining up to buy Bitcoin at 70K, but at 20K, they're like, I can wait. It's gonna hit 12.
Yeah. Stack. I've been steadily DCAing in this week.
That's why you just don't. I mean, my whole life is DCA. Like it's just like 80-90% of my income is Bitcoin now.
Yeah. It's a great time to send out invoices for advertisers that pay in Bitcoin. What else is going on? What else is going on here? What else do we have on the list?
Respond to your emails at this point.
Yeah. I'll pay you next week. Not saying that's happening right now. What else do we have? Fountain Podcast version 0.3.
Wait, we don't have a third shout out?
No, that was it.
Yeah,
we
this
have
Fountain
we have
update was
three,
big
but
for me.
one is the same one.
This one's big because of offline support, which is a must for any real podcast app.
Yeah, and I'm excited for the faster boost because I was getting confused. Like, is my boost going through? So boosts are much faster now as well. If you use the app, you probably notice like when you boost, it takes quite a bit of time for the boost to go through. So they fixed that problem. They have new Android lock screen controls, and like Matt mentioned, they have offline listening, so you can download and listen offline.
Massive.
Which is massive. And then I've been talking to Oscar behind the scenes. They have some really cool features that they're rolling out in the coming weeks. I'm hoping to get him on the show. So yeah, thank you guys.
He's not Austin based, right?
No, he's not in the country.
Yeah, don't dox his location.
Yeah. Speaking of that, just we'll segue. We've only got 20 more
Oscar
minutes.
moved to Nashville.
We got 20 more minutes here. Move to Austin, Oscar. We've got we're gonna
ignore that.
We're gonna adopt the Citadel Dispatch boostagram reading here on RHR as well, which is we're gonna read the top 4 boost in terms of sats boosted since last week. And so we've got at Deus Denton boosted 45,000 sats. Thank you, Deus.
That's fucking dope.
Huge congrats on the newborn, Marty, and thank you both for blessing us with another fantastic rip. Thank you, Deus. From at letter 6173, 3,333 sats. Excuse me, 33,333 sats. Congratulations on making more maximalists. The world is slowly getting a little bit better. That it is, even though it may not seem like it at the moment. It's getting better, freaks. Don't worry.
Cheers, freak.
From at the Bitcoin Brewer, 25,000 sats. Here's the baby number 2. Thank you. Baby number 2's been an angel. It's been great. Haven't gotten a lot of sleep, but I got a good night's sleep last night. The
baby number 2 is born into poverty.
I was actually thinking of that. Like, I'm actually happy. Everybody's like, oh, why would you have a baby, bring him into this cruel world? If you do believe that we're going to have this massive fourth turning transition in the 2020s, when my son turns 10, it'll be 2030. And when my oldest son turns 10, it'll be 2030. And now my second son, He was born
2032, bro.
He'll be 8 in 2030, and so if the world gets better after then, like it's a great time. Right now, it's like it's counterintuitive, but it's a great time to bring kids into the world because when they reach double
They
digits,
have more character if they're born poor.
yes,
And then they get some increased purchasing power over time.
yes. At user 63276002427143110. He sent 15,000 sats. Congrats on the baby Marty and Bitcoin Park Odell. Keep the freedom content coming and the movement growing. We will. We're not going anywhere. Price is down 30% since we last recorded last Saturday. And guess what? We're here. We're here. We're not going anywhere. We've been doing this for almost 5 years now. 5 years? 6, for almost 4 years now. And it's a joy week in and week out. We got a nice little freak community that's strong and growing. And
What is this? RHR 204?
204.
Car, how you doing being poor?
Doing pretty good.
Doing pretty good.
204, 204 weeks in a row with you freaks is fucking insane. I love you all.
Well, we get called out for this. It's technically not 204 weeks in a row yet because we had
Asterisk.
we had the stimulus rips during 2020.
Oh, there was multiple. We did 2 a week during like the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay. They were still in a row. It's just not weeks. 204 rips in a row.
Yes.
I guess all rips are in a row, but fuck. I don't know. Freaks, let's just pretend none of us heard that. 204 weeks in a row. Fucking impressive. Let's fucking go.
Let's go. What else do we have here on the list that we just threw together? How the federal government buys our cell phone location data. Data brokers and federal military intelligence and law enforcement agencies have formed a vast secretive partnership to surveil the movements of millions of people.
We've talked about this before, but like the easiest way for governments, the U.S. government particularly, to track us is by buying data because it circumvents our constitutional protections.
So they use your taxpayer dollars to violate your constitutional rights.
But Car, scroll down to the chart. The chart's really good. I like charts.
It's a flow chart.
Yeah, look at this flow chart. Look how. If it wasn't so horrible, it'd be sexy.
The Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense are all buying this data.
Gotta love it. Love to see it.
Love to see it.
Have fun staying surveilled, freaks.
Yeah. Another interesting thing that happened on Capitol Hill, speaking of the Department of Justice, obviously the January 6th clown show hearings went on this week, and I just thought it was interesting that Ted Cruz was asking, I believe, somebody from the FBI if the FBI was involved, and she refused to answer the question. She couldn't confirm or deny that the FBI was involved, and that dude Ray Epps, who many have proven to be associated with the FBI, did seem to be inciting people to run into the Capitol building the night prior and during that day. So again, talking about false flags, FBI, 3-letter alphabet soup agencies, they tend to be working against the American public instead of trying to protect us. And I think this exchange here, which we won't play live on air, but you can go find it online, between Senator Ted Cruz and the representative from the FBI, was pretty telling in the sense that it seems that the silence that they're putting out there is deafening, and I'm taking it as a confirmation that the FBI did have people, either agents or informants, acting on that day. This is where your tax money's going.
Are we wrapping up this episode?
We can riff it. We got like 10 minutes.
Car, do not press end to the stream until I have my final thoughts. Okay, where are we continuing from this? Do we have anything else on the list?
I have a nice picture to share. Speaking of studios, and it seems like we're going to get into a studio competition with Bitcoin Park, and the Bitcoin Commons.
This studio versus your studio. This studio, your studio.
Yeah, we just had a nice addition to the studio, literally right before we came in here. It's outside. Shout out to Kaylee.
Can we see it?
From Unchained, and who is managing the Bitcoin Commons. We got a nice neon sign outside.
What does it say?
You'll see. Car's pulling it up.
Let's go, car.
We also got BitDev. If you're in Austin today, bear market BitDevs.
This is the wrong thread.
Tonight.
What does that say? Fix the money, fix the world.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we got some neon here.
Did Unchained pay for that?
Yeah, it came with the comments,
That's awesome.
On air sign. Fix the money, fix the world. We're gonna do it, freaks.
Does that only light up when you're on air?
No, the on air sign only lights up when I turn it on. I typically turn it on right before we go on air. But this is what we're here for. We need to fix the money. Again, I'm very passionate about this particular issue. I think a lot of the terrible consequences that we're seeing unfold in the world right now stem from the fact that we have broken money. We cannot fix any of these systemic issues without fixing the money first. Money is the root of everything we do as a society. It is arguably the most important tool we use as humans. It has been completely corrupted and broken, and not until we fix it can we actually begin to fix the wrongs that exist in the world today. So yeah, we're going to reinforce that message here at the Bitcoin Commons, at the TFTC studio.
I would argue that there's no competition between studios. These are sister studios.
Yes, they are.
Two leading Bitcoin studios in the world.
Yeah. Ooh, and I actually can't wait to
one stream.
I can't wait to check yours out next month at the next Nash Bitcoiners meetup.
Yeah, so Marty's going to be in town in Nashville July 13th. So freaks, mark your calendars, coming to town. It's going to be, we're expecting over 200 people at Bitcoin Park. You guys get to see the magic in person. So consider coming out. We always do show people a good time. Carr brought up that thread, which reminded me that Wasabi 2.0 released this week, maybe yesterday. And at the same time, their former, the creator, the lead dev of the protocol they're using also came out and said that no one should consider it safe and no one should use it.
Yeah.
So take that as you will. I didn't create Wasabi 2.0. That guy did. He says not to use it.
Yeah.
And remember that they will check your UTXOs through chain surveillance, through a partnership they have before you go into a coin join round.
Yeah.
That's their words, not mine. I'm reserving opinion. Just stating facts.
The facts are not good. I'll state that. We'll put it that way. My leg is so asleep right now. Ugh.
I would just say to freaks, look, freaks, if this is your first cycle, I know it's hard. If it's not your first cycle, we still all feel the fucking dick punch. It doesn't feel good when Bitcoin gets absolutely decimated price-wise. It never does. But ultimately, tune out the distractions. I try and tune out the distractions as much as possible while running a weekly Bitcoin news show. But before Rabbit Hole Recap existed, I would just turn off Twitter completely, turn off all news sources, just continue to stay humble and stack sats, and just turn out the noise and just focus, tune out the noise and just focus on your friends and family and what really matters. Just don't let it get to you too much. Try and stay humble out there.
Try and find some calm in the chaos. That's the other thing too. Like, this too shall pass. Not only with the Bitcoin price declines, but everything going on with the rest of the world and the macro backdrop. It's chaotic. It's crazy. It's anxiety inducing, I'm sure, for many people out there. But you have to take a step back, recognize that we're in the thick of it. It's going to be chaotic while we're in the thick of it, but this too shall pass. It sucks pretty bad, but again, like we said earlier, in the rip, And hopefully this is the catalyst that forces people to look internally, ask hard questions, and begin seeking out better alternatives like Bitcoin. There will be brighter days. Things are pretty dark right now, but we're just going through the storm. The storm will come and go, and there will be beautiful things on the back end of it. I'm very bullish on humanity and the prospects of the world that my children are going to grow up in. So it sucks right now, but this too shall pass.
Let's fucking go. Stay humble, stack sats.